Hi there. My name is Andrew Robler, and I am a non-binary, neurodivergent, queer storyteller and theater artist based here in Houston, Texas. I'm fine with any pronouns, although most people use either they or he. And this video, I guess you could describe it as my audition to become your director for a project that I am launching here in Houston this fall, called Uncle Eb. And I should clarify that I'm specifically looking for two individuals that are masculine presenting or androgynous who are comfortable portraying a gay man in his mid to late 20s. So if you don't fit that category, you're welcome to watch this video. If you like what you see and you want to forward it to someone you think does fit that description that might be interested, that would be awesome, because I would love to get as many folks submitting as possible. I describe this as my audition for you because I think that the audition process is one that where there's this weird inherent power dynamic, right? That I'm the director, and so I'm choosing you. But I think you should get to choose to work with me just as much as I choose to get to work with you. And when I initially put out the audition call for this, I was doing it in a kind of a rushed way, and I wanted to redo it. I wanted to kind of take a second and reestablish and rethink the power dynamic that was present here. So this is my attempt to explain a little bit more about the project and tell you a little bit about me as a director and what you can expect working with me on this project. And if that sounds like something that is appealing to you and that you think we would work together well, then please submit an audition, and we'll go over the details for how you can submit your audition to work with me on this project. For us to work together on this project. That's really the way I want to envision it. So a little bit about the project. Uncle Eb is a one-person show, a one-person play that I wrote back in 2015. I am looking to cast two people to play the role so that you have someone to kind of rehearse with, run lines with, and that it's not quite as big of a time commitment in terms of shows, since there's only one person on stage for a full 90 minutes. And so what that means is that if we have some dates that are a little bit more set in stone in terms of tech and performance dates and all that kind of stuff, and we're going to actually be doing a short run in College Station Bryan up the road before we come down to the Houston run. And so depending on your availability and all those kinds of things, still submit an audition, even if there's a couple of dates that maybe wouldn't work for you, because if I can find a pair of folks that are available together and both feel like a really good fit for this project, then it may still work out. So it's a little bit different than most auditions in that sense. Conflicts for performance dates or even tech dates are not necessarily a non-starter. So like I said, I was starting this, I wrote this play back in 2015. I performed it originally back in 2015. And I know that that's kind of an initial warning sign for some people. But I want to make it very clear that I truly am not trying to find my mini-me. Part of the point of this process is that I want to see what somebody else does with the text. I want to see what it looks like and sounds like in somebody else's body and in someone else, coming out of someone else's mouth and in someone else's voice. And I want to get your feedback and perspective on what it's like to take the text that I've written and bring it to life, because I want to try and publish this more widely. I think it's a good story, and I think it's a meaningful story. And so you would be doing me a great service, and that I would not be helping you or myself by trying to pigeonhole you into the acting choices that I made. So while a video of that performance does exist, I'm actually never going to show you the full video, because I don't want you to in any way feel bound to the choices that I made and the way that I brought this character to life. And I've also brought on some other folks to help with that, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But the long and short of this is that this is a story about Tiny Tim from A Christmas Carol as an adult. I took a page out of the fan fiction world and set it in an AU, an alternate universe, and where Tim is in his mid to late 20s, in 2015, which was when I was writing. And he has recently moved back home to his parents' house after washing out of his career in New York City because he just couldn't handle it. He's dealing with a lot of his own personal ghosts and the recent death of his uncle Eb, Ebenezer Scrooge, the world-renowned philanthropist. And it is a unique one-person show in a lot of ways. When I started writing it, I kind of set myself some limitations, and two of those were that I didn't want it to be a talk to the audience play, so technically the fourth wall never drops, and I didn't want to play multiple characters, so you're just playing Tim the entire time. And that means that I had to get creative with how to do dialogue and how to get exposition out there and all of those kinds of things. And so the play alternates between two locations. One is a therapist's office where Tim is going to therapy, and we only ever hear his side of the conversation. And this is something I'm really proud of as a writer, because I think, and I've been told by audiences that it's very clear what the conversation is, even though you can only hear one side of it. And if anything, it actually kind of allows the audience to really focus on that conversation, because they're filling in the gaps in their mind with kind of what the therapist is saying. We're only ever hearing Tim's side of the conversation. In the same way, there are some phone calls that happen throughout the play that is similar, but that's not the vast majority of the show. And then the rest of the show is set in Tim's parents' basement, in the Cratchit's basement in the suburbs of Chicago, where his Uncle Eb, having passed away a few years ago, all of his belongings are now in their basement. And part of the deal with moving home was that his mom asked him to go through the things in the basement, sort through his uncle's stuff, decide what to keep, what not to keep. And so we see him doing that. We see him going through boxes and talking to himself and talking to stuffed animals that he finds, and reminiscing and interacting with ghosts, just like in the original Christmas Carol. There are definitely echoes of that story and that structure that come through. And there's some really fun and I think creative ways that we embody the ghosts on stage. We give Tim a concrete anchor to interact with, but it's not another character, and it's not an audience member that has to like say lines or anything like that. It's a unique mechanism, and I don't want to say more without risking spoiling it, but again, the feedback that we got from audiences when I performed it twice, actually, we did an encore production in College Station that was completely sold out as well. Audiences have loved it. So that's kind of the gist of the show. We'll talk a little bit about auditions at the end. So I want to talk about me as a director and this process, just to give you a kind of an insight into how I work. So like I said earlier, this is not my attempt to create a mini-me. I'm very committed to exploring what this show looks like in a different person's hands. And as a director, anyone that's worked with me over the last decade will tell you that I am a director that is very interested in collaboration. I very rarely come in with a set decision about exactly how a scene will go or exactly how something will happen. I have suggestions, I have general plans and thoughts and ideas, but the moment that I can tell that it's not working for an actor, the conversation isn't, okay, how do I make you into this thing that I want you to become? And the question is instead, okay, what about this isn't working for you? In this context, it's going to be an interesting challenge for us to navigate, because we're going to be dealing with questions of, okay, is this an acting choice issue we need to address, or is this a writing issue that we need to address? And so to help with that, I have asked a couple of folks to come on board. I have a dramaturg who's a dear friend of mine, who is a dear friend of mine because she's not afraid to call me on my shit. And so she's an excellent writer who is I trust to be able to tell me when she thinks the problem is the writing and when she doesn't. And in addition to that, I've asked another newer but still a wonderful friend to come on board as an assistant director to be there through at least a good chunk of the process. And between the two of them, there will always be someone else at rehearsals in addition to hopefully a stage manager that I'm hoping to hire. So, it's never going to be a one-on-one situation. Really, my goal is to create an environment where the two individuals that I bring on board, whether they're rehearsing together or separately, are able to feel like you have agency in this process and that you get to be a part of developing this story and telling this story just as much as I do, even though I'm the writer and the director, because ultimately you're the ones bringing it to life. So I'm very collaborative. I care first and foremost about the physical and mental, psychological, emotional well-being of myself and the people that I work with. I do not believe in suffering for your art. And I am someone that trusts you until you give me a reason not to, essentially. And even then, oftentimes I find that my first instinct is to reach for trust and kindness and generosity in response to a breach of trust. We all have lives, and while this is a paying gig, and I will be able to give you a stipend and a percentage of box office, which we'll talk about in a second, this isn't going to be your full-time job, and I know that, and you have life going on and things happen, and we're going to work together to make this happen, and that means that I'm on your team, and I want to be there with you, not above you and not in charge of you, but walking side by side through this process together along with everyone else on the team. So a few more logistics, I guess, to close out this audition video of a sort. So the audition process that I've kind of devised is twofold. One, I have included on my website, hopefully where you're seeing this video, or if not, there's a link to that page that has a side. It's one scene from the play. It's a therapy scene. So it is just Tim's words, which means that there are all of these spots in there where you're going to have to leave room to imagine someone else speaking. And that's kind of what I want to see you do. I want to see you have a conversation with an imaginary individual, which means that it's going to take a little bit of effort on your part to think through what are those actual responses that this person is giving me, and kind of write that portion of the script almost in your head, in your mind's eye, so that those responses feel genuine and that they feel present. And that's really what I'm looking for. Is I'm looking for an actor that can be present and hold kind of both sides of that conversation in their head and respond to the invisible other that is this therapist. And again, the way you envision the therapist and react to the therapist may not be the same way that I did it, and that's okay. I'm not looking for a cookie cutter. I'm looking for someone that can be present and authentic, whatever that means to them. And I'm a pretty good judge of that, I think. And then I've asked you some questions, kind of like I've explained a little bit about me. I'd like to know a little bit about you and your process. In particular, this is a very heavy memorization show. You're on stage by yourself for 90 minutes. There's a lot of text. And so I want to know how you work, how you memorize, and what you need from a director in the rehearsal room. Are you an actor that, really needs to work in a particular order, like you can't memorize until you're blocked, or you prefer to memorize before you're blocked, or how do you like to get notes from a director, and what are the things that are like maybe re-traumatizing or uncomfy for you in a relationship with a director, especially one that's going to be as kind of focused as this will be, since there's not a bunch of cast members to kind of share the spotlight. In terms of the details, we'll be rehearsing around our schedules that we will work out together, starting probably mid-October. Right after Thanksgiving is when we'll be opening the show in Bryan College Station. we will not only give you the stipend for the show and percentage of box office, again, which I'll talk about in just a second, but we'll pay for your travel, we'll find housing for you, and we'll give you a per diem for the days that you're up in Bryan College Station and or the days that you have to go back and forth. So we'll pay you gas money, all that jazz. So you won't be anything out of pocket for the out of town shows. And then starting the beginning of December, we have Matchbox 1 reserved at the Match, and we will move in at the early part of December and then run basically for 2 solid weeks, as many nights of the week as we can. We'll probably start with a fewer number of shows, and then hopefully, if things go well, add some additional shows as tickets sell and the audience fills up. I've talked a little bit about the stipend and the percentage, so I'll talk about that now. So I can guarantee a $400 stipend. So we have raised about $11,000 for this show, and on Kickstarter. It was amazing. I was kind of blown away that it actually happened. And I have a lot of that earmarked for set and marketing and things like that, but artist pay is a big chunk of that. And so because I'm bringing on a scenic designer and a dramaturg and an assistant director and a stage manager, and potentially someone else to help run the booth for the show, plus 2 actors, that adds up quite a bit. So I'm guaranteeing a $400 stipend to start things out. And then after the show is over, whatever we make from the box office, we as a company are going to get together at the beginning of the rehearsal process, and we're going to agree on a profit sharing model. So this isn't a situation where I'm going to say, okay, you come in and you get this percentage. I'm going to present a proposal and say, hey, does this seem fair? And give you and everyone else that's involved in the process a chance to kind of say yes or no. And if the answer is no, then we'll talk about it and we'll negotiate and we'll figure out something that seems fair. Some of that, I'm hoping will go to me as a playwright, since I'm just going to take a director's stipend initially, just to compensate me for the time that I put in writing the show that I never really got compensated for initially, and also there are some other projects that I'd love to use some of that money for down the road, but ultimately my biggest priority is that you all come away from this with hopefully a decent chunk of change, because you're going to be doing a decent amount of work, and that goes for everyone that's involved in this process. My hope is to split it equitably, evenly across the company, because everyone's putting in a lot of time and energy and effort into this process. So, but we'll discuss that as a company, and that will be part of our process. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of the process and what you can expect working with me as a director. If you would like references at any point, please feel free to reach out. My email address is on my website, which again, you're either watching this on my website, or if you're watching this somewhere else, there's a link to my website somewhere in the comments or the description of this video. And reach out and let me know. I'm happy to send you to talk to actors that I've worked with designers that I've worked with stage managers that I've worked with. I'm pretty confident that most of them will tell you that everything that I've said here is true, and that I take care of the people that I work with, and I'm serious about trying to change the way that we approach the power dynamic in theater. I think that's it. This was a long video. If you watched the whole thing, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to audition for you. And again, if you're not someone who's masculine presenting or androgynous, who's comfortable playing a gay guy in his mid to late 20s, then please feel free to forward it to anyone you know that might fit that in the greater Houston area, because I'd love to have them submit an audition. Thank you so much. And as Tiny Tim is known to say, God bless us, everyone.